Okay, stream is on. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Life Edge. We are here with Dr. Clarance Benish and, of course, a good friend and co-host, Dr. Susan Nash. I'm trying to see you through the light. There's a light right in front of me right now, so you're a little bit hard to see, but I'm good. If I look up there, I can see you, but then I'm looking up. So I think we are good to go. We're going to have about a 20 to 30 minute show today, and we can get started. So do you want to shoot our shots to Susan and me? There we go. And so let's start the show recording in 3, 2, and 1. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Life Edge, because life just doesn't have to be mediocre. I'm joined today by our co-host and good friend, Dr. Susan Nash. Hello, Susan. How are you today?
Oh, great. Surviving the heat and thrilled about our exciting guest who has mystery, magic, and buffaloes.
Mystery, magic, and buffalo. That sounds like a great combination. Let's get started. And we're back. Mystery, magic, and buffaloes. You know, that's a good combination.
It definitely is.
You've got me curious. Who's our guest today?
Our guest is Dr. Clarance Benish, and he is faculty director of Pawnee Nation College in Pawnee, Oklahoma. And he's a multifaceted person, and in addition to academics, he writes mystery. So there's the first part of our mystery. So I'd like you to welcome Dr. Benish.
It's good to be here.
I'd like to ask you first about your mysteries and how you got involved in writing mysteries.
Oh, well, that's a 30-year story now. This is the 30th year that I've actually written and hosted murder mysteries. And it started by just seeing a murder mystery box game at a store and purchased it and had a lot of fun with it. And, well, I just kept having parties at the house. And then when I run out of mysteries I could buy, I thought, well, I could probably write one of these. I didn't like all of them. Some of them had some major flaws, which I figured I could address. The very first one, actually, I wrote because it was missing some pieces, very important pieces, like the solution and the half of the suspects' profiles were missing. He had references to them, but not their story. So I worked on that for a while, and I thought, wait a minute, if I'm going to work this hard, I might as well just write them. And I have ever since. And started doing it for a part-time job.
So how do you decide who dies, who gets killed?
That's my favorite, one of my favorite stories to tell. When I'm writing the murder mystery, I never start with an assumption that, I'm going to create a character to be the murderer. That just would not be fair. In fact, when I was using the boxed versions that someone else wrote, I would not read all the material. I would just read enough to cast myself into it and cast everyone else so that I could have the pleasure of trying to figure out who did it also. So keeping that mystery to the mystery was important. So in writing it, I kept to that same idea. Well, first of all, you start with somebody who's despicable enough that you don't mind killing. The murder mysteries are light. They're humorous. They're not serious. We do spoofs. And even though he was despicable, he or she, we're still going to raise him from the dead at the end with a round of applause. So there's nothing serious or dark about these mysteries. But I build from 10 to 12 characters, very colorful characters. And as I build those 10 or 12 distinct characters, they'll tell me which one has the best motive to kill the victim. Because they all have to have motives or they wouldn't be a suspect. In fact, I'll give out a little secret about solving party murder mysteries. Don't even bother with the motive. Just work on opportunity and weapon. Just work on those two, how and opportunity, because everybody's got motive or they wouldn't be a part of the play or performance.
I like that. Well, so I'm thinking about, okay, now I'm getting to the magic and buffalo part. Okay, to me, there's a lot of magic in theater, and you have done the magic with the mysteries, but I also see that you have magic in a historic theater that you acquired in Pawnee, Oklahoma. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, yeah, it was kind of a mystery, too, about becoming the owner of that theater, because I simply showed up to take the tour because I had never been inside. It was closed in 1968. I was in the area, but I wanted to tour to see before it was sold to someone else. And if I figured if I came early, filled out a bidding card, I would get a tour. And that's exactly what happened. So as I was preparing to leave, about 12 to 20 people were there that were also curious on seeing what fool would buy it. I thought, well, I'll stay. I knew some of these people. The mayor was standing next to me and a few other artsy people. And I said, well, I'll stay and see who buys it. And as a traditional auctioneer would do, they try to get $1 million for something and tell a joke and to kind of break the ice, start the auction. So he said, well, someone give me $50,000 and I'll just take everybody to Clicks, our famous local restaurant. Now, $50,000 doesn't sound like a lot of money in California, but you got to understand this theater was in total ruins. The roof leaked, the basement had been flooded. It took out all the supports to the floor, so the floor had holes in it. It was moldy, and it had been closed for over 30 years. It was briefly opened one time, but then they closed it again, and some of the back wall had fallen out, and they patched that. So this was a salvage type thing, even though the front was sort of decorated up at the expense of the Chamber of Commerce, just to make it look more attractive from the street. But it was a piece of ruin. Historical ruins. A lot of people had history there, and a lot of people were willing to tell me their stories. So what happened was, I was wanting to go home, and I thought, well, I'll just start the bidding so we can get out here and I can see who buys it. So I lowballed it at $10,000. And much to my great surprise, almost immediately, the auctioneer said, going once, going twice, sold. and before he even got to that, the mayor and all of my friends and associates had already placed their bidding card in their pocket, never to be drawn out again. And so I looked at the agreement that I had signed that said $5,000 due day of sale, and I got to thinking, well, first words I don't want to repeat out of my mouth, but first thoughts that came to it consisted of 2 words. So I thought, auctioneer, I'll be right back. My bank was across the street. Fortunately, I had just gotten paid and got another small check for something else I had done, and I just needed to scrape a little bit together to get that $5,000 due day of sale. I was not successful in talking to the bank, and there's a story behind that which I won't tell you, but he was not happy that I had purchased it. And so I asked for an extension, which the auctioneer was reluctant to give at first, but he decided he'd give me a week. Well, within a week, not only did I have the full $5,000, but I had the full purchase price in 1 week, and didn't have to borrow any money against it. So since then, I've borrowed money from different sources, but I still don't owe anything on the theater. And it has a new roof. It has a new floor. It's been painted inside and out. Actually have new flooring, but I can't. I don't have the money to install the flooring, but I have purchased the flooring. Have some new theater seats, but they're being assembled, so they're not. So it's still in a. But that auction was in November 1st, 2013. So I have not owned it 3 years. In fact, the closing took 10 months. I've had possession less than 2 years. So people are amazed at how much has gotten done, considering it's sat idle for 30 years. And
when do you plan on opening it?
Pardon?
When do you plan on opening it?
Well, actually, I've already opened it for a couple of dances.
Oh, okay.
And there's going to be a live play next month. They're not going to wait on the. I have a solid wood floor, but no carpet or vinyl.
So no one's going to fall through.
They don't care. I have no heating and air, believe it or not. But because I'm between two buildings, it doesn't get extremely hot in there. Like the basement is only like 72 degrees when it's 100 outside, but getting that cold air upstairs without the 85% humidity is still a problem. It's uncomfortable, but not as miserable as being outside. So, but anyway, they're going to do The Foreigner next month, and we've been doing little things out in the street for two years now, for nearly 2 years. To keep the interest going, I'm raffling off a motorcycle, mine, to raise funds. So now, of course, that's the funnest thing about owning it, though, is the people that come by and tell me their personal stories. Every Valentine's Day, we honor the couple who met there, dated there, proposed, and marriage there, and they're in their 80s now, and so we honor them. They reenact the trip where the lady falls into the arms of her future husband, and that's how they met. We reenact that, and so we have a lot of fun, and people come and tell me about being put in the segregated balcony and the different things that went on there.
So how old is it? Because, I mean, this is a burning question I have, and you might have the same question too, Rick. Okay, one, why would you want the thing if it's in shambles? So it must be historical. When was it first built?
Good question. It was built in 1921. There was a dry goods store there prior to that, going back to 1884. Before that, there was just an alley between the two buildings, all the other buildings being fairly new, because Pawnee's not much older than that. But Pawnee Bill bought and sold property when he wasn't working the Wild West show, and when he was out of town, he sold property to his wife or his father, depending on who he was traveling with. And so he sold it to the man who converted it to a theater, and he had converted the Ponca City, Oklahoma theater in 1921. So we have that on record, and it was both a live theater and a movie theater. Now he added 50 feet in the back, so there are two separate floors and two separate foundations, and and it ran until about 1968. I remember when it closed because drive-in movies were very popular then, and the man who owned it in 1968 actually owned the Pawnee drive-in, which was out at the lake, very nice and romantic spot for moviegoers. And he was in competition with himself, and I understand the last time he had the Buffalo Theater open, he only had one patron for a movie, so he decided to shut it down, and then it was never reopened, except for a brief time in the 80s, and that was just to do a live show. So why did I do it? Why did I go ahead and commit to it instead of just turn around and try to get rid of it? Well, because I asked my friends why didn't they bid on it, and they all said in unison practically, we wanted you to have it. You're the one who's supposed to have it. And one of them went further than that and said, God wanted you to have it. And I said, well, why didn't God tell me? Why am I the last person to know? Well, they said, you're the artsy person, you're the theater person, you've been acting, or as my mother says, you've been acting up since you were a kid. And this would be a great legacy for you. And the town needs it. It's right there in downtown. It is the most, they say in real estate, it's all about location, location, location. Well, Buffalo Theater has location, 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 location. It's where all the events take place downtown, or the turtle race on 4th of July is right out in front. And it did when it was opened in 1921, and it's still to this day. They were using it even when it was closed for Santa Claus visit, because I have, as you saw in the pictures, an outside canopy over the marquee. And so it's just you cannot go through town without seeing it. And nowhere on it does it say Buffalo Theater. But everybody knows that's its name, and it's a very easy meeting place. We're having Old Time Saturday Night here in August, and it'll be in the center of all that. It's right across the street from the courthouse, which has monuments to the Pawnee Nation, and a walk of honor for veterans, and a number of other things like that. A monument to the steam engine show, which was started by my uncles about 40 years ago. So there's a lot of history right there. And one of the things I enjoy doing is roostering up when I see strangers coming around. They start looking around, taking pictures. They're pretty easy to spot in the small town of Pawnee, population 2,400. I'll just go into the theater and rooster up and come back and give them a tour of the theater, tell them the history that I've shared with you and more, the history of Pawnee, which is where I was born and grew up in the county and still living in the county, and now teaching at its famous Pawnee Nation College. So everybody knew this. And of course it made sense to me. This is what I can put my golden years into, restoring it and making it the center of arts and entertainment.
I like that. Okay, so can you rooster up for us?
I sure can. It won't take long. That won't take long. Just give me a second here, little lady.
So, Rick, are there small towns in California that you know? Oh my gosh.
And this is for you. I'm going to stand up, so only to put my vest on, because you got to see that star. And I'm not going to get my gun, although it's right over there. I figure I won't have too much trouble. I've got to straighten out this eye patch. Thank God I see myself on Skype. And, well, there you have it. Now, I was fortunate enough to get interviewed by the Tulsa World here last week, and they did a little video, and that's been posted on, Susan's seen it, on the Buffalo Theater Facebook page.
It's great.
But even I'm walking down the street, whether I'm Dr. Benish or Rooster, people will call me one of the other.
So one time you mentioned that you went and
we
saw
were interviewing possible candidates. Well, in fact, Susan was interviewed by our college for a possible position, and she probably heard me being called Rooster a time or two. Had another candidate come in, and she thought it was so funny. We had a fun day, and Susan, you should have come to our Pawnee Nation College fun day for the summer. It was a picnic, and we had a water slide and things for the kids to do, and it was a whole lot of fun. All these Pawnee Indians show up, and bring their families, and that's what we wanted to do. And they were calling me Rooster. Well, I wasn't roostered up, but that's how they know me.
Now, have you ever seen Susan roostered up?
What?
Susan, I think we need to have you rooster up one day.
Oh.
Oh, Susan?
Susan.
Well, Susan would make a good Mattie Ross.
She would.
There you go.
Yep.
Pilgrim. And I'm going to rooster up tomorrow for some folks in Tulsa, but I could use a Mattie Ross. And call a little sister. That'd be your nickname, But I've done library talks on the True Grit. Of course, I wrote the book. I didn't write it, but I've read it, seen the movies, of course, both Jeff Bridges and the John Wayne version.
Yep.
So that sort of makes me an expert.
Yeah.
I asked people, I said, now, how many people in here have seen both movies? A lot of hands go up. And I said, well, how many people have read the book and seen both movies? And a few hands go up.
Yeah.
I said, well, how many people have read the book, seen both movies, and played Rooster Cogburn in Judge Parker's courtroom in Fort Smith? Yeah, well,
No hands.
the only hand that goes up is mine. Because they love me over there in Fort Smith. You can imagine, I was the Grand Marshal for the Memorial Day parade. There were about 10,000 folks showed up for that. So I have a lot of fun doing it. But it's only one character in the number of murder mysteries I wrote, but it happens to be pretty popular in this portion of the nation. Since I'm in the very territory that the fictitious Rooster Cogburn traveled to pick up those mostly evil white men who were violating U.S. law in the Indian territories.
Yep.
And Indian territories itself is a misnomer because they were independent Indian nations just like they are today. So you get a little history from playing the role and talking the role. I never rooster up without talking about Pawnee Nation College. So I get a few bonus points for that with the college, as you can imagine.
Oh, that's good. Well, that's quite interesting. I really didn't realize that True Grit took place in...
I didn't either.
Yeah.
And I like the speed with which you put the outfit on.
That was impressive.
Yeah, I was going, what's he going to do?
I got a story to tell you about going to Fort Smith. I took some friends over there, and I'd been there several times, and I always rooster up, even driving over. Well, I got pulled over in a little town that was right outside, before you got to the river cross, and I told my friends, I said, don't worry about it. I've never gotten a ticket while I was roostered up. It's just, professional courtesy. True story now. So the officer comes up, and he's shaking his head, very, very apologetic, and he says, I am so sorry. It was Memorial Day weekend, not this year, but 2 years ago. And he said, the policy is I cannot give warnings on Memorial Day weekend. And never mind the fact you're going about 38 miles over the speed limit, I'm still going to have to give you a ticket as much as I don't want to. And I said, well, a man's got to do what a man's got to do. So while he was back writing me a ticket, he went back to his vehicle to write me a ticket. You would think my friends would rub it in while he was gone, but instead they were focused on something else. They said, Rooster, did you see his name tag? I said, no, all I saw was dollar signs going out of my head. And his name was Rooster.
Huh.
And
Wow.
they said, well, ask him about his name. So he come back and he said, well, I shaved this down quite a bit. I said you were going at a slower speed, but $150 is still going to cost you. And I said, well, you're just upholding the law. And, oh, by the way, my friends want to know about your name tag, Rooster. And he said, oh, yeah, that's what everybody calls me down at the station. My dad owned the farm in Colorado where the original True Grit was filmed.
That's amazing.
I said, well, I just got me a $150 piece of art. I'm going to frame this and put it up in the Buffalo Theater. And next time I need to raise some money, bidding will start at $150. That's a true story. I got that ticket around here somewhere, but and you come visit me and I'll show it to you. Well, you can imagine there's all kinds of stories when I'm dressed this way. There's a bar in Fort Smith called Rooster. Well, and it's across from the courthouse and from the historical area and stuff. Well, I walk in there and the roar goes up. They all know my name. You know, it's like that. Cheers. You go to a place where everybody knows your name. Mm-hmm. Well, that's the first time I went in there. Everybody knew my name. And they didn't mind telling me. So just a lot of funny things have happened, and I enjoyed them all. So, but I've played Teddy Roosevelt last year for a group, and they called me just out of the blue, and they asked the question, well, why did you first, or how did you get into playing Rooster Cogburn? I said, well, it was for a murder mystery I wrote, and I wrote that murder mystery because someone asked me to. So, well, we're asking you to play Teddy Roosevelt. I said, well, all right, I'll do it. And I think I did a pretty good job. You can see that on the Buffalo Theater page. So, and I played Elliot Ness. Of course, I call him Elliot Mess. He's one of the characters in one of my murder mysteries I wrote. But I do him. And I was telling Susan, I believe, a while back, Oklahoma's got a famous wildcatter called Tom Slick. Now, there's a Tom Slick Jr. who went looking for the Bigfoot and the abominable snowman in Tibet. That's the son of this wildcatter, the oil wildcatter. I played him a number of years. Enjoyed it. It's a true rags to riches story, and I even worked him in a murder mystery one time. What I wrote for the haunted Skirving Hotel in downtown Oklahoma City. I hate to say this, but that's kind of my favorite murder mystery, especially when I'm roostered up. I'm kind of partial to the Who Killed Marshall Slow. That's the murder mystery which this character tries to solve with the help of the town folks. But Boom Boom Bust You're Dead is a pretty good murder mystery, if I do say so myself. And it involved the Skirving Hotel, and if you can Google the Skirving Hotel and you'll find out it has a haunted history attached to it, that the Chicago Bulls found out that there's a hotel maid that likes to haunt men in a most private way. And since we're on air here, I won't tell you how private, but you can just imagine. It involves their being in the shower and being in bed.
Well, I had an experience in the Skirvin where we were putting on an event there, and there were so many different interferences with all of the lots and lots of gremlins and all the electronics. And this is before I knew that we were on the haunted floor. And later I thought, wow, well maybe there was some kind of...
Yeah, I've actually been there 3 times and had an encounter one or two of those times, but I can tell you for a fact now that I won't be haunted again, because I've got an understanding with the paranormal situation there. And I got that understanding, and I hate to spoil it for you, and I'm not going to, but I got that understanding through my murder mystery, which was performed there for 85 people in the ballroom. Because, and yep, I just did something that I felt had to be done. And that's not, if that don't leave a little mystery for you, I don't know what would. But Susan was wanting to know about the role of theater and acting and all that. You know, I'm still in education, of course, being head of faculty at Pawnee Nation College, and I still teach a lot of classes, speech. And one year the president wanted me to make it speech and acting, share my skills. And acting is good for kids. It really is. It gives them a chance to escape their everyday life if they're coming from a rough home. It gives them a chance to see other people's perspective. And if you think about it, we don't use this term, especially in education anymore, but children are childish. And we kind of say, well, they should be, and not enough. But, well, we're actually trying to teach them how to be adults, too. And by acting, they're no longer focusing on themselves. They're focusing on the character they're playing. And it helps with that transition out of childhood into the adult world. I tell my kids, even in speech, they like to hit me with, oh, I'm too shy. And I say, well, wait a minute. I heard this from a good friend of mine. Shy? You know what that means? That means you're thinking about yourself, and you've got things to do. If you're making a speech, which is the number one fear of mankind, you heard that on Steinfeld one. He made a joke about that. Number one fear is public speaking. The number two fear is fear of death. So the person giving the eulogy is in worse shape than the person who is in the casket. Now, I stole that from him, but I use it. Well, I said, so being shy, you're just thinking about yourself. If you'll think that the audience out there needs something, or they wouldn't have asked you to say something. They need something. Think about them, and then you won't be shy. Focus on delivering whatever message they wanted to hear. Besides, if you're shy, you're going to make them uncomfortable. Make everybody miserable. Why do you want to make everybody miserable for? Entertain them. Or give them the information that they want to have, and there you go.
Well, Susan, I think
you know it, you're done.
And I think, Susan, that's a good time to ask your question.
Well, I think you answered the question, because I really believe sounds like that's what has given you an edge in life, which is really understanding the importance of acting and all the wonderful things that come from it.
Yes, that's right. And even the Bible talks about being Christ-like. Well, and Christians mean like Christ. Well, we may still have a sin nature, but we can act like saints. And so there's no area. Well, when I'm not roostered up, I act like I'm head of faculty. In fact, I was playing some goofy characters the first time I got a job as a professor, and my son says, well, how are you going to be a professor when you act more like Ernest P. Worrell back in the old day? I loved him. I have all his movies, and I think he was a great actor and a great comedian actor. He said, well, I'll just act like a professor. And that was my answer. I said, I can make that decision. So there you go. And There
I
you
like
go.
that. Well, those are really wonderful words of like guidance, and I like them a lot. It's been really a pleasure to have you as a guest today.
Well, I hope I didn't take too much of your time because I'm full of stories. A lot of people say I'm full of a lot of things, but not always stories. In fact, that's one of them words I uttered along with "oh" at the auction. Uh, but yeah, I got a story just about for every occasion. So
Well, that's good. And I'm sure you have somebody listen for each one, too.
yeah, I don't have a trouble getting a crowd.
That's the fun part.
Well, so I'd love to read some of your mysteries. Are they available?
Well, not in a purchase format. I had to come with them.
Oh, great. That's
I've done them from
excellent.
New York to California. In fact, like I said earlier, I'm going to Tulsa tomorrow to meet some people as a result of that ad or that story they ran on me. And it's one that they want me to finish writing. I enjoy writing them. And I use Alfred Hitchcock in The Twilight Zone for my inspiration for my writing of murder mysteries. Big fan of The Twilight Zone because they used what I call, and so would a lot of other people, a triple twist at the end.
Mm-hmm.
And most of my murder mysteries have a triple twist at the end. And that's the inspiration I got from the TV show.
Well, Dr. Bennis, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on and sharing some of the stories with you. And Susan, any wrap-up?
Well, I just want to thank you, and I can't wait to watch one of the murder mysteries being performed in the Buffalo Theater.
Well, there you go. And the first one may be that Boom Boom Bust You're Dead because it's the same time period. See, it's the 1929. And the theater is being restored to a kind of a late 20s, early 30s decor. And so that may be what we do there
Sounds great.
in the near future.
Well,
Wonderful.
Dr. Bennis, a pleasure having you on today.
I even have a character you can play, Susan.
Oh, no.
I've already got you cast if you
Oh,
want.
no. Okay, I'm ready.
But I'll give you a hint. It won't be the ghost. You won't be playing the ghost.
Oh, thank goodness.
She could make a good gremlin. Well, anyway, thanks so much for coming on. And if people want to get a hold of you, what's the best way for them to...
The best way, the Buffalo Theater, Pawnee, Oklahoma.
Okay.
On Facebook.
On Facebook.
On Facebook. Yeah, that's probably the best way.
And it's called the Buffalo Theater, Pawnee, Oklahoma on Facebook?
Yeah, that's the name. There's a few Buffalo theaters around. There's even a couple here in Oklahoma. We got a Buffalo, Oklahoma, and Buffalo, New York. But there's only one Buffalo Theater, Pawnee, Oklahoma.
Great. You heard it. Buffalo
And
Theater,
you'll
Pawnee,
see
Oklahoma.
Rooster on there. And you'll see those Teddy Roosevelt and a few of those other characters and some of the shows and things that we've done.
It's great.
Waiting for the theater to be open.
Yep. That's good. Well, thanks for coming on again. And for all you people watching, please subscribe, give us your feedback, and go to Pawnee, Oklahoma. It sounds like it is a good place to go. Have a good one,
I'll
everyone.
give you a personal tour.
Yep. And that's going to be priceless. Have a good one, everyone. Thanks a lot, Dr. Banish.
And
Thank
thank you.
you.
My pleasure.